Item A is discuss the tax rate. Okay, what you have in front of you is the tax worksheet from Linda Shearhart. For this past week, Jay and I have talked to the attorney, the auditor, Linda twice. We also talked to Ben Rosenberg, and in a few minutes, one of their employees will be, well, one of his teammates will be able to answer questions. Basically, what we did when we signed and passed that ordinance in August was stipulate, and this is also qualified under the state tax code 1502 something or other, that we would pay the interest on this out of ad valorem taxes. And we've established the tax rate, the tax account. Gwenda figures all of this. We don't do anything. So she figured all of this, she came up with a tax rate. We also, item 6 is pledge of the surplus revenues, that's whole pledge of principle. And if you read over here, just barely glances on, aside from number 5, number 5 is required. We have to do number 5. Aside from number 5, notwithstanding the requirements of section 5, if you read all through it, the whole thing is here. So basically, here's what it is. All of this is a recap of last year. You go down to item okay, go down to item 19. You'll see our taxable value this year is $93,266,086. Then there's certain tax breaks or whatever. So our total taxable property this year is $92,427,269. Now you divide it and you get our effective rate. That's to maintain the same amount of taxes as 0.3978586. Then you go on to the next page. This is where M&O is already calculated, and this is nothing new. This M&O has been calculated for years by the county tax assessor collector. So don't think that this is an extra $367,000. She's already done that. So if you go on down, and there's little bits and pieces. Okay, item 32 is where we actually calculate the amount of tax that we're going to have to levy in order to meet the $64,257. So what, if you'll read on down to line 38, you'll see we have to levy 0.068896 cents per hundred. What that boils down to is an additional 6 cents per hundred, and I was doing some calculation on $100,000 valued piece of property. It would add $60 annually to the bill. So effectively, that makes our rollback rate this 4.98288. Then if you go on back, it's just more of the same, and you can read all the details. And our sales tax, 1/3 of that goes to the EDC, but a really good visual is back here on this chart, right here. Now, prior to adding the 6.8%, 0.068%, we had a surplus tax revenue of about $29,000, almost $30,000. Adding the tax rate to accomplish the required $64,000, we now have an excess of 93, but we can't use that 93. We have to move this money into our INS account. If we don't, the auditor comes after us, the state comes after us, we can't use it for anything but to pay the interest on their debt service.
That was what the ordinance was for.
That's what the ordinance was for. That's part of, yeah, that's one of the small parts of the whole thing. Was to assure the Texas Water Development Board that they were gonna get paid. So we're gonna pay the interest out of taxes according to the ordinance, and then we'll pay the balance of the, principal from revenues, from, what do you call it? Utility revenues, from
profit.
water and above maintenance and operation. That's what that 364 is for. That's your maintenance and operation cost according to the tax assessor collector. But if you want to see down here, if you look at the effective rate increase in cents per hundred, each one is a half a cent. 1 penny is going to generate $9,327. So here's your option. We have to collect the money to pay the tax, the interest. But we've got a 3% leeway that if you want to cut the taxes by 3 cents to make it better on the taxpayer, we can, but we won't have any extra revenue for the city, no tax revenue extra. We'll just be the same place we were last year. Jay, do you have anything?
Yeah, you said just about everything that we were told.
So we're going from what what we're discussing is that from in 2019, we were at 0.4033. 2018, and then we want to jump up to 0.4982. Is that kind of what you're saying?
It's zero, well,
That is the rollback rate.
no, the rollback rate,
Is the 0.4982?
well, no, that's the combined rollback rate of, the rollback rate was 4.297 something or other, or 0.4297 something or other. This is because of this requirement and this, that we've obligated ourselves to, the rollback rate is now 4.98288. That's what we're going to, basically, yes. But that's the old rollback rate before we initiated this tax for this year, plus the tax that we have to initiate for this year. So what I'm saying, the option we have is,
We also have a higher bill to the CAD this year,
we have what?
a higher bill to the CAD that we have to pay out of this.
Yes. We pay CAD, we pay the county we pay the tax assessor collector for collecting for us. That's about $15,000 every year. So I did check with Linda about the seniors and the frozen taxes. She said this year it will affect the seniors, and next year it will be frozen. It won't be frozen going into this year, but it will be frozen next year. So it's going to put a burden on our senior taxpayers, but $50 a year for an $85,000 valuation, I don't know how the average is, $60 on $100,000 a year, not a month. So I think we have no choice. Now, if you have questions that I haven't answered, I've got a member of the U.S. Capital Advisors crew on standby to answer your questions. Ben is on vacation. But Jane, I've been working with Julie all week, and she's answered our questions and guided us, and Gwenda's been a lot of help, and, you know, so we've covered every possible out that there is to figure out the different ways around this and how we have to do it. But, as I said, we're stuck with a 6% increase, but not with a 9% increase.
Is it a 6% increase or
0.0688.
Okay. So that was the 3 cent wiggle room that you said we don't have to increase.
We don't have to, but
nine.
folks, if we don't, we're losing ground. We've still got to pay the tax assessor collector, we've still got to pay CAD, We still gotta pay these things, so.
And we can do that at, I'm sorry, at the 6%, or you're saying we need to do it at the 9%?
We go to the 6.9. A 0.69, I keep hitting my points in the wrong spot. The 0.69, yes.
You told me
It
earlier,
is-
there's
it is
a
a
limit
there.
coming soon, statewide to where we can go. You mentioned that.
Yeah, we
briefly.
touched on this briefly. The legislature tried to limit or cap the tax rate for cities at 3%.
Mhm.
The legislature's trying to shut cities down altogether. They've made it so we can't annex, they're about to limit the amount that we can tax. We're not getting any more funding from them, but we're still, stuck. So this is a move we need to make this year.
Next year, we won't have a choice. We're frozen and we're locked in where we.
If we don't, we won't be able to ever,
Yeah.
because it almost passed last year.
Well, next year, your max will be 3% total,
Right.
Yeah.
unless something happens, which I don't believe it will.
Right.
Is there anything in here about our past, like a 5-year history of our tax rate?
No, it's only last year.
Okay.
Last year's only first 2, 3.
This is what I have from
Oh.
notes from last year when we were doing the tax rate.
Now, we adopted the,
Went down. Stayed the same.
rollback rate last
Went
year,
down.
but we adopted the effective rate the year before because we didn't get it to council in time to have the required public
Right.
hearings.
Right.
But we haven't gone up
Mhm.
since, from 14 to 15.
Right.
And our operating expenses have certainly
Increased.
increased.
So we've been doing our taxpayers a pretty good service, I mean, by not,
Or at least maintaining.
yeah,
or even
maintaining it
lowering.
at least.
Questions, input?
I mean, I always hate to be the council that has to do a tax rate increase. I mean, every council hates to be the one that does that, but we have to look at the overall picture.
I've said this a million times, I'm very proud to have been a part of the last 6 councils in whatever form. Because we have tackled the hard problems and we have tried to find answers. Now we've obligated the city to $3 million, $4 million plus with interest. But there's not gonna be water coming out of the faucets if we don't do it.
Right.
And besides that, we were talking to Derek Nizer today, and in just
Yeah, that was today.
probably not even 5 years, maybe 3 years, we're looking at a $7 million sewer plant.
Right.
He's working on that now and looking at some, seeing what TCEQ, because one flood and, those plants down for a week.
So just to make sure I'm understanding this right, then.
Okay.
So we borrowed $3 million for the water system. We're required to charge a tax to pay for the interest on that, is that?
Mhm.
And then in addition to that, we can raise 3%. And we should do it this year because we might not ever be able to do it again in that way, is that?
The state's gonna shut us down pretty much. But what I wanted to express to you is that we're required only to raise taxes to cover the interest.
Yeah.
Now, there's a or maybe clause in here that we would propose enough tax to cover all of the debt service. Well, there's no way that's gonna happen. I like living in this city. So we need to really think what's best for the operation of the city, that our citizens are getting the water that they need. Well, we know they're gonna get it, but that we pay for it by the law. And I believe the tax code statute was 1502, if you don't wanna see it. Chapter C, 271 local government code, and 1502 of the government code is amended, so that's if you wanna look at it, but I mean, by law, we have to do it. And by law, we can't use it for anything else, and no future council can use it for anything else.
And I think those are the big things to communicate to the public, that if you want drinking water, we had to have the upgrade this is what it costs, the money can only go toward that. And people will be a little more accepting of it if they understand why.
Yeah, one of the things, for instance, our total debt service for just the Texas Water Development Board loan is only the interest. But the next year, our debt service is $143,849, that's debt service and the principal. Do you know that we paid over $140,000 to TCEQ in a past year in fines and dings and different things? And we're doing the best that anybody can ever possibly do for our city this size, however we have to do it. And also by doing this, I really believe, especially talking to Derek today, before we set utility rates, he's gonna take a really good look at it. Ben's gonna meet with us next week to take a look at the, operation plus the performa plus all this other good junk to give us a different look at the rate study. We've been working hard this week, guys. We have really reached out and gotten every opinion from everybody and all the input so that we actually understand it. So it's a good thing. Any questions? Nobody? Okay then, well, here's what we're gonna do then. We have a public hearing on the tax rate on September the 4th and one on September the 19th.
Yeah,
5th, September the 5th. Isn't it a regular, isn't it with
And
our
the
regular
4th and the
meeting?
19th.
It's the
Is it
fifth and
fifth?
the ninth,
Fifth?
fifth
All
and
right,
the,
thank you, folks.
And,
The 5th and the 19th. We're gonna plug that number in there. We don't have to go into the final numbers until we file the budget. So just do what you think is best. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Rebecca. Second by Bryce. Discussion? Any final questions? All in favor? All in favor, no opposed. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Is that just a 17-minute meeting? Is that just a 17-minute meeting?
yeah, let me look the
Yeah.
quarter real quick and then I'll see what I
A
can
long time we're gonna do it, so we're gonna do it.
Thanks for explaining this to me earlier.
Sorry.
Otherwise, any